Welcome everyone back to Intensive Treatment, your number one podcast for everything in the world of the Arkham universe. And today is Halloween.
Yep. Can you believe it?
God damn it. It feels like it was just like last week we were talking about like Arkham Trilogy coming out on the Nintendo Switch. Like it feels like
it's so weird.
It just feels like it's just been not that much time. But yeah,
Well, No, go ahead.
It's officially Halloween. We got something very special planned for the podcast. This is something that's been on my like notes as far as ideas for episodes for over a year now. I want to say it's been in there. So the idea was we were going to talk about jump scares and also kind of talk about like the horror elements of like the Arkham franchise a little bit, because there is some stuff there that like is very kind of horror adjacent. And,
Definitely.
But yeah, I think, what would you rather talk about first? Kind of like the horror stuff or like the jump scares themselves, or what do you think?
Let's talk about horror first, because I feel like jump scares might be a little quicker, then we can save it for the end. But the horror stuff is definitely dive into a little bit more.
Yeah. So even as early as the first game, and there is a very kind of like horror type element to the world that was being built, and especially in the case of Asylum, they kind of lean into that horror element like very thoroughly, and I think it's the most effective for the most part in Asylum.
So do I. I think too. You and I were both kids when we played this game, so we were probably extra scared over adults. And you know, you and I are adults now, and I still get like not scared anymore, but it's just like, this is pretty creepy, even now.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd like. I'm trying to think back to when I was a kid. Like there were parts of the Asylum that like creep me out a little bit. Like you know, the like hearing the Amadeus tapes, you know, just kind of having this ghost kind of like shadowing over you, telling the stories of like the early beginnings of the Asylum, and you know how it just kind of went wrong, and then you find out like that it was Warden Quincy Sharp kind of, you know, in his mind being a wacko, being crazy, and like being inhabited by this person, or in our case, like we said, he's just a crazy person. So just as crazy as the individuals here. But like I remember watching the trailers for this game, and like one of the first promotional things ever was like it was a camera panning through the rooms of the asylum, like the mansion, the outside, and you can like hear the screams of inmates in the halls, or Joker like laughing his ass off or something. Like it was just a very terrifying thought to think about.
Yeah, I mean, that game for me, especially because I had played it first, set the bar for what I was to expect in the future, obviously, with those games. Because by the time I played it, we talked about this before, I think Arkham City had just come out when I first played Asylum. But I just recall being super, and I was a really paranoid kid. I'm still paranoid as hell. But I was like, what the hell is going to come out of this corner? You know, what's behind this door kind of a thing. And obviously the world building in Asylum is stellar. So you just felt like it was almost real in that world of the game. So I was petrified when I was younger. I mean, I wasn't like jumping out of my seat, but I was always just kind of like eyes glued to the screen, kind of like you can't look away from the horror kind of thing.
Yeah, when I played this as a kid, like the two things I was looking forward to the least, even though I was like you, glued to my TV waiting for, you know, whatever to come next, the two things that always like I was never looking forward to was Scarecrow and Killer Croc.
Yep. No, that was all of us. All of us that grew up playing this, like, dreaded. They were the worst things ever.
Yeah. Yeah, like the first time you ever see Killer Croc, he's coming out of the elevator and it's this big, monstrous looking figure talking about how like he has your scent and he's gonna eat you alive. And there was this notion that kind of carried through the game where it's like, you're gonna fight him eventually or you're gonna run into him again. And it's
Yeah.
gonna be one of the most terrifying things you can ever imagine, possibly. And
Yeah.
it definitely worked for me. So
Oh, me too. I remember seeing that opening scene with him, and you kind of go through the whole game. In the back of your mind, you're like, okay, where's Killer Croc? When's he popping out? Because slightly throughout the game, he's like alluded to and mentioned to, and then you kind of forget about him for a while because all this stuff's happening. And then finally, the final nail in the coffin. I need to go talk to Cash in the mansion to see where Killer Croc's lair is.
mhm.
And I'm like, oh my god, it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember like just even seeing the entrance into Killer Croc's lair and feeling just jitters all over. And I've talked about this before on previous occasions, but going through the Killer Croc section,
Mm,
I was pissed scared. Literally
yeah.
pissed scared. I pissed myself. I like this
Yeah.
11-year-old kid who was playing
He
this
actually
game.
pissed himself.
I did. It's terrified me that much. Just like because he jumps out of the water. Like it felt like every corner was just a jump scare waiting to happen. And
It
then
did.
when like when he grabs you and puts you like brings you into the water, it's just like you're ready to like run out of the house, like just turn the
Yeah.
Xbox off and just run down the street just to get away. Like that's
Yeah.
the stuff that nightmares are made out of.
It is. And for I don't know how old I was, 6-year-old kid? Yeah, 7 years old maybe. I was freaking. I didn't want to see that. I was freaking out. Um, Arguably for me, and we'll probably get to this in a bit, but I was more scared for some reason of Scarecrow. And Killer Croc freaked me the hell out. But Scarecrow did a number on me, and I was always, when I was younger, I was like, all right, I want to replay Asylum, and it was my least favorite part was going back to play the Scarecrow missions. I was like, Croc I can deal with. It freaks me out, and it's like very like nail biting with Croc.
Mhm.
But Scarecrow's just it's like freaky. It's weird. It's like a skinny dude with a gas mask and needles, and just you don't know what to expect.
Yeah, like this guy is gonna give Freddy Krueger a run for his money.
Right. And they did such a good job. Man. Thanks, Sefton.
Yeah,
Big
thanks.
thumbs up for England.
So, yeah, I
But
feel
yeah.
like the horror elements as much as like I don't think about them a lot in the moment. It's
Mm,
fun thinking about them after the fact. Like after you do a
absolutely.
playthrough and like you see like the grime and the age that this place has, and you feel like, man, there's some really spooky shit just like in every corner, no matter
Yeah.
where, like even on the waterfront. Like there's something out there and
Yeah.
it's gonna get you eventually. So
Yeah. Asylum did something that none of the other games really lived up to, in my opinion, anyway, and that's the idea that this place is just surrounded by death. Like I I'm playing Asylum and I feel like it's a place of ghosts and
Mhm.
darkness. And none of the other games really got that again, and not that they had to because they didn't take place in the asylum,
Mhm.
but man, it's like what a bar to set. And it makes me scared. And it's the perfect Halloween game. It's the perfect game generally. I don't care what anybody says,
It's
but
good for all seasons, I'd say. It's fun to
it is.
play in the winter, it's fun to play in the summer, it's fun to play in Halloween, like when it's at
Yeah.
its most spookiest.
Yeah.
Like it's great all around. The original game, not the fuck the
Yeah,
remaster, but
screw return to hell more like.
from
But
whence
yeah.
it came. Go back there. But yeah, it's because it was like around like this, like I thought about doing a playthrough recently, like just because you know, even though it's not a focal point, I'd say as far as the larger narrative, horror and has always been a big part of like this game,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
it just works so well during this time of year. So
Yeah.
I feel like if you're gonna play Asylum again, or if it's your first time, Halloween is like the perfect setting to just do it all.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys are looking to have a scary good time and you've never played Asylum before, which I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, do it around or
Yeah,
on
if
Halloween.
you
It's
if
great.
you haven't played
I
it
love
and
playing
you
it on
decide to play
Halloween.
it,
I've
like
done it.
it
I
gets even
think I did
better.
it
Like it,
last year.
yeah,
I want to say.
yeah.
I don't remember, but I try to make it a tradition to at least maybe even if I don't beat it, I'll play it for a little while on Halloween. So we've talked a little bit about we've talked a little bit about Scarecrow. We've talked a little bit about Croc. Um, I don't have anything more to add on them at the moment. There may be something that pops up later. Um, but I kind of wanted to also talk about other characters in this game that freaked us out when we were younger, still freak us out, and gave us major Michael Myers vibes, um, or Freddy, or Jason, or Ghostface, what have you. Um, because I think there's a plethora of characters in this game that freak me out.
Mhm,
Um, Joker being one of them,
mhm.
particularly when he's massacring large quantities of security guards
Oh yeah.
in a game that's rated T. Uh,
This is
so,
probably like if we're talking about the Joker real quick, this is probably one of the most like intense versions of the character, like right up there with like Heath Ledger
oh
level
yeah,
shit.
he's a terrifying version of Joker, unhinged, as we say.
Yeah.
Do you have a moment in this game that maybe when you were a kid, sort of like Croc, like you pissed yourself, but like with Joker, where you just like, oh my god,
Never pissed myself with Joker,
damn.
just saying that now. There's always one thing that creeps me out even just a little bit. It's like it's dark. Do you remember the phone call that somebody had
Oh,
like near the
yep.
when you're following the breath trail,
I
the
usually try to
alcohol
listen
breath?
to it every time.
I do too. It's a girl calling and she's trying to contact someone named Steve, which I think we meet a little bit. It might be one of the other security guards. I'm not entirely sure, but she said she's looking for Steve, and Joker picks up the phone and he's like, "Yeah, I can't really find." Well, it's like, "Oh, we found his head. We'll let you know when we get back to when we find the rest of them." So that one,
It's such a great moment.
it's like darkly comedic, and it's just like it's very like I'm just picturing her just on the phone listening to this and
Yeah,
that being like super terrified. But yeah,
yeah.
that's a moment that kind of sticks out as like one of the best for like this version of the Joker, I'd say.
Me too. That moment as well for me, especially when I was younger. Um, I heard it for the first time and I was like, this is creeping me out, like
Yeah.
hardcore. It really freaked me out, especially because too, you're at that point don't know anything about the asylum. You're kind of wandering around trying to
Hmm.
figure out where to go,
Hmm.
and you hear the crackling Joker teeth on the ground, and the alarms in the background. So it was just the whole thing was kind of intense, especially for a kid. Um, and it was freaky. That phone
Hmm.
call is very very creepy.
Very unnerving.
Yeah, that's a good word for it.
Yeah.
I don't know of too many other Joker moments in the game that really like made me creeped out when I was younger. It was more of just being genuinely like surprised at what he would do. Like the junction box thing when he throws the guard in. If you manage to do that and you don't shut the power off beforehand, but
Right.
um,
The only other times about like Joker being legitimately creepy in that game is when you go to the
The visitor center.
visitor center. Yeah.
Yeah, it's freaky as hell for me.
Like, especially that first one where he's just like, "Yeah, sit down a while, take off your mask, and just relax." Like there's a very like creepy aura coming
Yeah.
off of Mr. J, and
Yeah.
I don't like it.
No, me neither.
So
But there's not really no other noteworthy things as much as the other characters that we were discussing anyway.
I thought because you were late, the character that I had was not Joker. It
Well, I
was
was going to think of Zaz as well for
yeah.
me.
Okay, yeah.
Is that who you were going to say?
Yes.
Yeah, Zaz gave me nightmares from both Arkham Asylum and City. He is, in terms of creepy level, he's way creepier than anyone else in the game.
Maybe in this whole series, I'd say.
Yeah, I agree.
It's pretty close.
The only person that comes close to, at least in terms of like very just unnerving and creepiness, is Professor Pig.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
even then, he's still not Zaz. Zaz is just cold-blooded, creepy.
Yeah, Pig though is like there's a creepy undertone for sure, but him, you're just like it's like you're more laughing at him than anything. Like,
That's true.
Not like you're laughing with him. You're laughing at him because he's
Yeah.
so stupid. But
Freaking.
but yeah, nothing for me ever tops like in terms of just sheer creepiness. Zaz takes the cake. Not even Scarecrow in like Arkham Knight takes that.
No,
So,
it's Zaz.
yeah.
Even from the first, when you first meet him, and he's the first side villain that you meet. So he's one of the OGs in the Arkhamverse.
He is the first legitimate obstacle you come across.
Yeah. And he was creepy, especially when that mini cutscene when you're talking to Zach Franklin, right? That's his name?
Yes.
When you're talking to him, it pans over into the electric chair room, and he just looks weird. He's lanky and bald. He looks like a psychopathic Lex Luthor.
Yeah, I can see it.
That's
close though.
Yeah.
It's wearing nothing.
Oh. Well, we that's what we want. But and the voice actor, I don't remember his name, but he does such a great job.
Yeah.
At making it's almost like Hannibal Lecter vibes, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So from that opening scene, it was very scary, and he has one other noteworthy moment in Asylum that involves a doctor who is a bitch and dies.
Yeah.
So that part was very creepy. But Zaz's creepiness really sneaks in more for me in Arkham City.
I agree. Yeah.
Because the phone calls are just really strange and frankly weird me out.
Or even just him, like, you pick the phone and he's just like, "Find my phone before I bleed this piggy."
I know.
Oh shit. Means
it's about to go down. Yeah. But so yeah, Zaz.
Should we talk about the other games briefly? I don't imagine we'll have too much to say on them, but like starting with Arkham City, the horror level, like the horror factor, there's a part of it there, but I feel like it's very downplayed.
It is. It's nothing compared to Asylum.
No. There's like maybe one or two things that like or like not counting Zaz because League of Its Own. There's two other things that like are on the creepy like radar and like make your skin crawl a little bit. The first one is Calendar Man.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And the other one is the boat you find that Scarecrow owns. Yeah. Which we'll get into that. We'll get into that a little bit.
That one.
So, yeah. Oh, what were you going to say?
I was going to say the initial unveiling of Solomon Grundy creeped me out when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But no, the Scarecrow boat is a whole other level of creepy for me.
We'll get into that when we talk about the actual jump scares, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's like pretty
Oh,
wild.
right. Yeah. Guys, we should do like the TikTok trend of the subtle foreshadowing.
Mhm. Just wait until later on.
Yep. It just flashes the guy going.
Origins is Origins
Weak.
and Black. Yeah, it's weak. There's only maybe like one thing. Like it doesn't like it's kind of on the bar, but not really. It's like
What would
this
you say?
the Cyrus Pinckney stuff.
Oh, I love that stuff.
Yeah, that's
That's good.
great. Yeah,
It's creepy.
it's a little. It's not like intensely creepy, but it's like creepy after the fact.
It's creepy after the fact, and it's creepy for me during it too because the tapes make it creepier. You know, listening to like this old static sounding like unearthed, never before heard secret tapes, and uncovering a mystery of a cold cases were always something that I was interested in, but always creep me out. Because I don't know, I get weird when like death and stuff is just freaks me out. But
Yeah.
Cyrus Pinckney, it's not on the level of Asylum or even City for that matter, but I'd say it's a shining moment in that game, and it's definitely top 3
One of the very one of the very few.
Yeah. Maybe the only good thing about that game, now that I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Origins overall doesn't really have anything.
But yeah, no.
The crypt is creepy too.
I was about to say because we were talking about Cyrus Pinckney, but like the thing that makes that creepy for me is when you find the tomb and you listen to that last tape, and then you come to the conclusion that there's more of a mystery here to be solved. Like not all the like there's still more pieces of the puzzle that are left to uncover.
Yeah, that's the creepy part as well for me. It's like unsolved mysteries just are unsettling naturally. So you're like, what the hell happened? So yeah, I agree. Cyrus Pinckney. I wasn't even going to say that one, and I wasn't going to say anything for Origins. Marvel again. He's surprising me.
I know my shit.
You do know your shit. I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry for not studying, sir.
I'm so sorry. I failed the test. I'm so sorry.
So we move on to Arkham Knight. I don't think Blackgate's worthy of.
No, Blackgate's not even like anywhere on.
Blackgate doesn't exist.
It really like if we're talking about creepo fact, like it's not even.
It's not on the scale.
It's not even in the same vicinity.
No,
like it's just off doing its own thing, being nothing and being forgotten.
I'm gonna do my own thing in Arkham Asylum. Origins really tried to be Miles Morales and failed. Or not Origins, Blackgate, my bad.
Yeah.
Same shit.
I'm gonna do my own thing. He's like trying to be Miles, but then he turns into like one of those TikTok NBC people you see.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, let's move on to
The Great Electric Knight.
The Great Electric Knight. Oh geez, that's I just cringed a little bit.
Me too.
So Arkham Knight. It tries.
Yeah, it does.
More often like
I don't think it succeeds for me.
As far as creepy like stuff, it fails. But I think what it does succeed in for the most part is like the jump scares, because there's a lot of fucking jump scares in that game.
Yeah.
But yeah, as far as like besides Professor Pig and like maybe Deacon Blackfire in theory, there's not really anything that sticks out as like overly like terrifying.
No.
Maybe Killer Croc, but like I don't know.
He's definitely freaky.
A little bit.
But it's nowhere near the first game.
No.
Yeah, I don't. The only thing that I would say, yeah, Deacon Blackfire's unnerving for sure, but Uh, I think the whole like the Jason Todd tapes, even though you know what's coming, they're a little creepy.
Or like him being tortured by Joker
Yeah,
for months
yeah,
on
like
end.
yeah, like that's dark.
That is dark, yeah.
So I mean, they got that aspect, but there was nothing in that game that made me go, "Oh God!" Like that's creepy. Just I just never got that.
I feel like a lot of that though is like Sefton being like, "Oh, we have an M rating now. Let's try and just make it as creepy. Like,
Yeah,
let's give kids nightmares as much as possible."
right.
Yeah,
And that's where like the lack of creativity comes in. Is like they didn't try as hard to be creative with the way that they would make it creepy. Like Asylum did. Asylum got a T
yeah.
and a low taper fade. No, I'm kidding.
Like this game, you have Scarecrow there,
Right.
and like it's just like it doesn't hit that bar in
No.
any meaningful way.
You'd expect it to as well because Scarecrow is definitely intimidating in that game.
Yeah, he's also an idiot, but you know.
He's real dumb. A real airhead. Valley girl.
What happened to it? Like he was like
Oh, he fell off
he
literally
did like
off the fucking balcony in the sewers.
did Croc like drop him on his head or something? Like
Yep.
permanent brain damage.
But yeah, I don't think there's any noteworthy stuff for me to even say at this point
No,
in terms of like horror elements.
no,
They
no.
other than they tried, yeah. They
They
tried
tried.
and sort of failed.
Yeah. So I guess we'll talk about the actual jump scares because there is some stuff to go over for some of the games, not all of them, but like, yeah. So let's start with
Well,
the best. Let's start with the best game in the lot, Arkham, Arkham
night.
Asylum,
No, I'm kidding.
Arkham Knight. Yeah, it's what
You
everybody calls
shut
the
your
best.
trash mouth.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like you shut your goddamn trash mouth. Arkham Asylum, like for jump scares, they don't terrify back as a kid, like seeing some of them for like the Scarecrow jump scare
Hmm.
or the Killer Croc jump scare. Like those are some of the ones that immediately come to mind where it's just like, you're unzipping body bags of like your parents, and then you unzip the
Yeah.
last one, and then this fucking creepo just sticks his head out and he's like, boo. It's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you're just like, what happened? What's going on?
Well, what happened? Your balls drop off? Yeah, I
So
mean, it's good for sure.
yeah.
And Killer, sure. Do you want to talk about Killer Croc?
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
that made me. I didn't piss myself. I definitely shit myself. No, I'm just kidding.
a
Um,
little came out,
a
but
little bit. Killer Croc stuff really rocked me when I was younger. Because there's a jump scare with him every like 20 seconds. And you never know which direction it's coming from.
mhm.
And obviously you have to be very slow on the platforms and it's there's all these bends and oh god, it's horrible.
And even before that, like hours earlier, like you're the first time you come into
Oh,
the
right.
sewers and you see this door off to the side and you're like, I wonder what's over here. And you try to open it, which doesn't open, and then he just like pops in like, out of
And
nowhere,
punches it.
punches it.
How he
Said,
didn't break that is
yeah,
beyond me.
it's tough steel, man. It's tough, like hundreds of years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah,
So
it
yeah,
was.
that one freaks
It's
me out.
great though because it just kind of like sets the seeds for later, and
Right.
you're just like, oh shit, I gotta fight this guy later. Fuck.
I love how Croc and it adds to the depth of the jump scares as well as like
Mhm.
there's all this shrouded mystery around where he's kept and like how to get there. And
That's
even
true.
when you go to that door, um, you
Right.
know, you go a completely different direction when you're going through the intensive treatment building. So you're
Mhm.
just like, where the hell is this place?
Yeah.
Like, and I always thought too when I was younger, I'm like, was that even the entrance to his lair? Was that like, was he out of the lair? Like, what? I didn't. Yeah, it was just, it was. They did a good job at that.
Yes.
I'm glad we're on the same page there.
Hmm. Like we always are.
That's true.
But
And
it's
then
fun though, because like I had that same thought as a kid too, where I'm just like, where does this door lead? Like after
yeah,
you punch it, like after you terrify yourself by him punching the door, and you're just like, wait, where does this even go? And you see later when you get to that spot, like trying to take down Scarecrow, and after his encounter, boss fight, whatever you want to call it, the door opens up back to that sewer area, and you're like, oh, okay.
yeah.
Like everything's interconnected.
It's a little
So
less extravagant as I hoped it would be when I was a kid. I'm like, what's behind the door? And you're just like, oh, it's just like this open area that he somehow got to.
yeah.
But
It makes me
frankly,
wonder though, because he has that entrance to his lair, right? He swims around and all there. Is he just swimming through that current too, like just going all over the sewers, or is it just like that set location?
right. That's what I'm curious about
So
as well. I feel like if
mm,
he was, it'd be a lot of fun. Like, bro,
yeah,
I get to live down here and swim? What a life.
got my own playground, bitch. Yeah, I wonder if he watches BET too. um, is there anything else like jump scare wise from Asylum that you can recall?
uh, processing, processing. Oh my god. Um, oh yes, there
Rob,
is.
Robin deleted all the files and replaced them with his gay porn collection. Robin!
Robin! The day we get Forest Fire on here, we've succeeded in life.
Yeah.
So the one other thing that I definitely want to mention is the lunatic inmates. Because they scare the shit out of me.
Yes.
Especially when you're
Yeah.
first introduced to them. You know, Harley unlocks the doors, everybody goes free, and you're like, oh my god. And then they just kind of start popping out of nowhere. They're in grates. They like, and those are the jump scares. That they'll be either in ground grates, or the one that always used to freak me out was when you pull that
Right
grate off
above
the
you.
ceiling. Yep, and he just drops down. You're like, ah. Um,
Or the guy
they
who's in when you're leaving the penitentiary building and he's in like
and he just pops out.
in that little rafter thing and just comes
Oh
down.
yeah.
It's like, I'm here now.
I'm like, how? Firstly, how the hell? Yeah, those freaked me out, and still to this day, like, I'll be doing it, and I'm like, you son of a bitch! I know you're there, but you're gonna freak me out. I know you're there, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah.
I think it has something to do with the way they run at you too. It's
Yeah.
just freaky. They're unnerving as hell. Forgot to talk
There
about that,
yeah. There's a
but
little like eeriness to them. And then you see them like out in the yard and they're like hanging off like the Warden Sharp statue and you're like, "Oh, they're kind of fun." So,
yeah, they're
um
they got a childlike side, and then you just throw a batarang at them and kill them. They fall to their death.
I remember doing my second playthrough and like you fight all the crazy inmates and they're all levels of terrifying coming out of nowhere. And then when you watch that cutscene of when you go down in through the medical facility and it was like, "Oh, Dr. Crane, don't do this." And you
Right.
walk up to the window and then that crazy guy just like barges onto the fucking windowsill,
Yeah.
scaring the shit out of you. It's like,
Get
oh my
me
god,
out of
it's one of
here!
those. Get me out of here!
I always
That's
thought too.
another
I'm
one
like,
too.
what the hell is he doing down there?
Yeah, it's like, were they just, like, experimenting on him or some shit? Or,
Yeah.
like, what's going on?
Well, another thing that actually makes me curious about the lore here is what is actually the deal with them? You know, like why do they look that way? Why are their eyes like opened up
Forced
with
open and, like, yeah,
yeah, their mouths? Like what? I don't know.
they
They all
watched,
look like dehydrated Victor Zazzes.
yeah.
Victor Zaz in a dryer.
Those doctors have been watching A Clockwork Orange, like, just recently, and they're just
Yes.
like, "We gotta do that for our patients."
Yep.
Fuck. Um, yeah, I don't know, there's probably one other one that I'm forgetting about with Asylum, but, like, as far as jump scares, but, um do you wanna talk about City real quick? Because there's only one, and, or one
Yeah.
that I can actually think of, and it gets me a little bit every time.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's talk
Okay.
about it.
So there is a boat in the shipping yard, or like out in between the steel mill area and I forget the that piece of the island or whatever. So it's in the water, and there's no prompt for this whatsoever, but you use the cryptographic sequencer on this like opening, and out of nowhere, and this terrified me the first time I saw it. Um, he he opens up the sequencer and it actually works. Like there's a code to be put in,
Right.
and the code says City of Terror, if I'm not mistaken. The doors opens up, you go into the boat and you see these like plastic containers everywhere of like cockroaches just like s- like s- fidgeting around, and they're moving all over the place. At the very end of this like hallway type deal, you see a guy in a chair and he's kind of slumped over, and you zoom in and he just out of nowhere like wakes up and is like in terror, and he just slumps over again and dies. That
Yeah.
gets me a little bit every time.
Yeah, it does. It gets me too.
Yeah. Because it's all just sudden, and you don't think the first time you're like, "Oh, I have to zoom in on this guy," or whatever. And then you do, and it's just like a little bit of pee comes out. So,
Yeah, and that I think too, when I first did that, um, as soon as you see the cockroaches, you sort of get the idea. You're like, no way, this is Scarecrow.
mhm.
And lo and behold, we're right.
It's funny too, because like Scarecrow in City has like a kind of eerie presence throughout. Like
I know.
not only just the boat, but the hidden messages in the cryptographic sequencer. Like there's
Yeah.
certain spots you go like you aim the cryptographic sequencer on, and there will just be this automated voice going like 9, 23,
You know what?
and then
Those freak me out really bad.
yeah,
Um, and ever since, even before I knew that they were Scarecrow, I would hear them. And I'm like, yeah, that's creeping me out, and I would like look over my shoulder, kind of thing. Um, yeah, that was. I hate that.
yeah. Like hearing those for the first time, because you stumble across them the first time and you're like, wait, what the fuck is like it's just numbers, whatever. And then you watch like Arkham videos do it, and he's like decoding the message that's hidden in there,
Yeah,
and it all of a sudden hits you. It's just like, oh my god, I can't wait for the next game.
dude,
It's like
he was doing prophetic work
he is
for us.
Batman. He is
He,
literally Batman.
I bet you he actually is. It's just Robert Pattinson. He's Arkham videos. He always has
Mhm,
been.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean, that part always creeped me out. And did you mention the mask already? I think you did.
Yeah,
Yeah, you did.
yeah, the mask is there too.
Yeah.
Um, on top
Oh,
of
and
that.
also the Scarecrow inmates when Protocol 10 is going on.
That's right, yeah.
Um, It's so weird to think about it that way, that like Arkham City, like you said it perfectly, like he has an eerie presence there even though he's never even in the game.
He doesn't make a physical appearance, but there is like a piece of him around everything.
I just
Like,
like imagining that he's watching Batman all the time in Arkham City somewhere somehow.
mhm. Yeah.
And I don't doubt it.
No,
So,
it wouldn't surprise me either. So,
oh, and his Scarecrow's mentioned as well in the Hush mission, which we have talked about this before. Actually, we had a whole episode on it.
oh, that's another thing I forgot to talk about too when we were talking about creepo factors.
Hush,
Hush.
Hush is very creepy. Well, you know what? We just lump it all into one.
Yeah.
Jump scares and horror. Yeah, I forgot to mention him too. Do you remember your first initial thoughts? Like, did you know it was? Did you know it was Hush? Did you kind of have an idea, or
No.
didn't you say that? Didn't you say that this introduced you to Hush?
This was my introduction to Hush. I think it was shortly before I read the first volume of Hush, like in junior high.
Okay.
They had a copy of volume 1, which was it was like the first issue up until like the Superman fight.
Yes.
That's where I got familiar, but this one was like this was my first real introduction. And I think Lego Batman 2 is part of that also.
Yeah.
Um but yeah, it just meeting like cuz first firstly, you see this person in the church early in the game. He's on a bed. His face is wrapped in bandages, and he's holding this case like of something we don't know what it is. You talk to the guy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, I met him, and we worked together." And all of a sudden, he was like carving his face out and laughing too. And
Yeah.
so then, all throughout the game, you find bodies with all the same MO and like their faces cut off and he's taking certain pieces and you don't know why. And like there are some potential like suspects you run into and they all say the same thing. It was like, oh, it's Bruce Wayne doing that. And even Oracle is just like, well, if we found a match for the fingerprint and it is you, it's Bruce Wayne. So it's
Right.
just like, wait, what the hell is going on? What is this all leading to? Is Bruce really crazy? Like, did something really happen to him? And then at the very end of the side mission, you find this abandoned, or you find this building, or you go inside and you play this tape, and you find out that it's Thomas Elliot, and his work is finally done. The gate
Yeah.
closes behind you, and you finally meet Hush face to face. He starts taking the bandages off. You see that he looks exactly like Bruce Wayne, but all scarred up and stuff. And then he leaves, and you're left in this room with like this very like creepy music, like almost like it's like a children's music box playing.
Right.
You feel like this emptiness. That's how I felt the first time. Like I just
Hmm.
felt confused and like empty, and I wanted to like actually find this guy.
Yeah. Me too.
It's great. That whole side mission is great, and until it fails in Arkham Knight. But just leaving that out, like it's almost perfect. That side mission.
Yeah. It's great. It's great at providing mystery, creepiness, and overall story progression. It's kind of the whole package for me.
Yeah,
Um, yeah,
yeah.
what a guy. And I think that was also when I was introduced to Hush as well. I don't think I knew who he was before that.
No.
God, we have so much in common. Anything else in Arkham City that you can think of?
Not off the top of my head. Um,
Me neither.
so let's move on to not Arkham Origins because
Yeah, because there's really nothing.
there's nothing in there. Yeah, I can't really like not even like Nightmare Batman is like
Nah, that's
creepy
not
to me.
scary. No,
No.
maybe the
Blackgate has
Joker.
nothing. Yeah. So Origins has nothing. Blackgate has nothing. And then we get tonight with its jump scares, which I feel like there are jump scares literally every 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Or they try.
they really did try. And I think for me, it gets old.
It does.
It's like too much, especially because after a certain amount of time, you're just like, okay, I bet you one's coming. I bet you.
It's the most annoying at like the beginning of the game. And there's one spot in particular where it's really annoying with that shit. And it's at the end of the Ace Chemical section.
Right.
Because you're trying to whittle down the blast radius and you grab the last canister and you turn around and Joker's right there, like, oh, surprise, Joker. I was like, okay. Yeah, that didn't scare me. Probably
No.
because I watched too many other videos of people playing and they got terrified of it.
Mm.
Which I'm like, it's not really that great of a jump scare.
No, not at all.
So, and then literally 2 seconds later, and this one did get me. Your first person playing as Jim Gordon, and you discover the underground, like lab rats that Batman has, and then literally you turn around and fucking Batman's just right there, like it's literally being like Jim Gordon, and that's actually super clever, I'd say.
Yeah,
Surprisingly, Sefton had an actual good idea.
I know. Dude, who'd have thought?
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, that jump scare still gets me because maybe I'm just stupid, but I haven't memorized like when it happens.
Yeah.
It's kind of just random. I usually just look at all the cells and then I just kind of do some spins
Yeah.
and he's just there. And I'm like, oh
Yeah.
my god.
I got to a point where I played the game enough to where I looked at the cells with all of them in there, and then I knew as soon as I turned around, Batman would be there. But I feel like every time I play it now, it's random. Like I'll
Yeah,
look at the 4 cells, and then I'll turn around and Batman's not there.
right.
And then I'll look back to the person I was talking to, and then all of a sudden, just Batman's right there. And it's just like, what the fuck?
It's AI Batman.
AI Batman.
He's like, I know your move. It's Taskmaster.
Literally.
Well, yeah,
Son
that's
of a bitch.
that one gets me more than most. There is one. Actually, there's two that get me more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Should we go over them first, or should we go over them next, or is there any other ones?
We can go over them next, yeah. Why don't
Okay.
you start us off? Why don't you clue us in?
Well, how about I clue you in?
I was just
I
about
am not in danger, sir. I am the danger.
You clearly don't know who you're talking to, so let me clue you in.
Okay, so this jump scare is probably the most iconic jump scare, at least since Arkham Knight came out
Mm-hmm.
in the Arkham games. So there's a little mission called Creature of the Night in Arkham Knight, and it involves a man that turns into a bat, and he scares the living shit out of you
This got
while you're looking for
everybody.
him.
At some
It
point,
did.
you were probably like scared shitless by this thing.
Yep. And I'm pretty sure like you have to get the jump scare to start the side mission.
It has to have like there's a certain like it has to trigger at a certain point, and
Right.
there is one spot which I always trigger it just to get it out of the way. Sometimes that doesn't work, and like other times, like I don't know, but I always have it happen like right after you talk to Riddler or like when he shows up on the projectors, and
Right.
so there's the building where the screen is. You grab onto there, Man-Bat shows up. It's at a point now where it's just like, all right, come on, Man-Bat. Let's get a good look at your ugly mug, and we'll just move on. So, but yeah, I remember when the game came out for the first time, everybody like they were playing it, and they all got scared. Like there's a compilation video of all the people playing at that time, just getting their fucking shit rocked by this thing.
Yeah.
And it is it is
Getting their
hilarious.
shit rocked
It is
by
literally the most one of the most hilarious videos I've ever seen, where it's just like people like gliding around, they're having a good time, then all of a sudden this fucking demon thing shows up.
Yeah.
And they're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's great. So what was the other one you were talking about?
It is a parody of the Man-Bat one.
Oh,
And that is the Joker. That one gets me too. It
that
does.
that one is bad. That one's that one still gets me from time to time too.
Especially because like the way the laugh comes in and he's like shaking his head like a freak.
Yeah,
I'm like, oh my god, this guy.
just up close and like Joker's mug.
Yeah.
You know what's another one that gets me from time to time?
What?
The very end of the game, you're first person as the Joker, and
Oh, I think I know what you're talking.
you're in Batman's head, and you
Mhm.
start seeing these statues pop up. Like
Yeah.
the first one, you look at a mural of Batman carrying the Joker out, and then you turn around and then this fucking statue just comes out of nowhere. You shoot it, and then you move on. And then there's this part where it's just like you're in this like courtyard type area, and statues are like suddenly popping in around you. You're shooting all of them, and then out of nowhere, Batman just bursts out of one.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one's pretty bad.
it is. So there's a couple notable ones in Night, but it just doesn't have the same. It almost feels like how when classic horror movies made you scared, like Arkham Asylum is the quote unquote classic horror movie.
Yes.
And then Night is the modern horror movie that is just trying to fill it with jump scares to make you purposely scared.
You know what I
Whereas,
think of? Like,
what?
my immediate thing that comes to mind when I think of all the jump scares in Night, it's like watching A Nightmare on Elm Street, the remake, because literally that whole movie
Oh,
is nothing but jump scares. Every 2
uh,
seconds, there's a jump scare. And it's like one of them is just like Freddy turning his head.
I
It's just
know.
like, ah! It's like, oh, God. Oh, shit. Thanks, movie.
I know.
Don't go
Wow,
watch it. It's
that
so bad.
that's disgraceful to compare it to that movie, and I actually agree with you though.
It's like it feels pretty close though, because Night has that same issue where it's just like you're right. It's like the modern horror film, where it's just like, oh, we don't know how to get the audience, like, so we're just gonna like, just like every 2 seconds make a loud noise and have
Yeah,
something like a little creepy happen, but just like that booming boom, like something's happening.
right.
It just gets boring though after a little, like those two back-to-back ones with Joker and Gordon. Like at first you're like, okay, it kind of worked. And then
Yeah,
after so many playthroughs, you're just like, nah, no, you're not gonna get me. It's not working.
yeah.
So not even Man-Bat, the most terrifying thing to look at in that game, doesn't even like do it for me anymore.
Me neither. It doesn't compare to the genuine fear that you have of the other characters in Asylum, and
Yeah.
even City's stuff.
Yeah.
So what we're trying to say, Arkham Knight, L, huge L.
um I wonder how long before we start seeing clips from like Arkham Shadow, if there's any jump
Hmm.
scares in that.
I'm
Just
curious. Yeah,
yeah, um, yeah. I haven't seen the full game yet because I don't own a
neither have I.
MetaQuest, and like I'm seeing bits and pieces of it, and like there's nothing that's immediate that like is terrifying, which is kind of a shame, really, because it's just like that first trailer I remember, just like the hordes of rats coming towards you. And like, yeah, that's kind of terrifying. I hope like we do more with that. And I'm sure there's probably something more with that in the game, but I just haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
So before we close off, there's one more thing I wanted to talk about as far as creep factor. Um Arkham VR, just going over that
Hmm.
game is literally just a nightmare. A literal nightmare
Actually
that
is. Yeah.
Bruce is having. Not like Oh, it's a nightmare, and the fact that, like, nobody wants to play it or it's that bad. Literally, it's the whole game is just Bruce in a dream.
Yeah.
But yeah, the ending, like, seeing that the first time kinda creeped me out a little bit where it's just like, you're in the cell and, like, you turn around and you see, like, Bruce snapping Dick's neck, and you turn around again, and it's just like a mirror with you as the Joker. It's like, oh, that's kinda terrifying, but nope, not doing it anymore.
Yeah.
But, I don't really think there's anything else on the topic.
Me neither.
There's been a lot of stuff over the years where it's just like there is some kind of factor of creepiness, but it only really starts from like the beginning.
Yes.
So
Yeah, I agree.
you fucked up, Arkham.
They done a lot of that.
It's true.
Every time we get a little bit more.
I wonder how long before you and I actually sit down and play Arkham Shadow, and we're just like, man, this game piece of shit.
Oh, it's gonna be a long time.
That's true.
It looks promising to me
It
though.
does. It does.
I'm excited to whenever I play it in like the
Yeah,
next
I'm,
50
yeah, I'm
years.
excited for whenever Alter records the footage for us.
Yeah,
I can't wait.
Lord knows we're not doing it.
Yeah.
$400 later. No, I'm good.
Nope. Black Friday. Wait till Black Friday. I'm not doing that right now.
Yes. That's true. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's everything.
I think we did it. So yeah, everybody, that is gonna be it for this episode of Intensive Treatment, the podcast. We haven't done a podcast episode, it feels like, in forever. I just want to
Yeah.
check real quick before we leave off here. I'm sure it's like a few weeks, but I don't know. It feels longer for me, like for some reason. So
Yeah.
so
Well, I guess you're tripping. What have you
maybe
been taking?
12 days
Have you been,
ago.
have you been taking that Asylum Kush?
Yes, I have. It's been great.
That Arkham ass. That Arkham ass bleeder.
That Arkham ass. Ivy. But
Oh, don't get me
man.
started.
Oh man. Oh no.
Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, it's been like it hasn't been too long since our last episode, but
Yeah.
I'm excited because I have a few ideas I want to record for November, which I hope that people will enjoy while it comes up. But yeah, in the meantime, be sure to check out our other content, like our ITTV. We just did an episode not too long ago about all like a compilation of news, which that is fun. And also our penitentiary playthrough of Arkham City is happening. And also on the occasion, we might go live stream. So
We might.
that's great.
Very true.
We've been super busy, so we haven't had the time to get on our dedicated schedule that we had. But you know, that happens. But anyway, we will see you guys for the next episode. We're getting pretty close to 175 or oh geez, 75 episodes of intensive treatment. Can you believe that?
No.
Me neither. I'm glad we agree on that. But yeah, have a great night, everybody. Thank you all so much for watching. And of course, don't forget to take care of yourselves and stay locked up as usual. Bye, guys.